welcome to Comic Talk. This is your host Alex, coming from a little bit gloomy Miami today. We've got a tropical depression, and it's actually causing us to lack a bit of the sunshine that we're known for. But at the end of the day, it does make things a little cooler, so it's actually a little better for us down here, especially in the middle of summer. Now, today's subject of our video is going to be one that I believe will be a bit controversial. And I understand the controversy behind it because there is a lot of strong feelings on both sides of this aisle. So I'm going to see if I can walk the middle ground and explain why this woke culture is hitting some of us a little bit differently than what's expected. And although it may be seen as a form of empowerment, I think it's actually feeding into a concept of mediocrity and a concept of changing and replacing our mythos and our past. Um, One of the subjects or one of the topics of this woke is to take existing characters and not necessarily use the characteristics of those characters to create new characters without stealing their name, their image, and their mythos. Instead, that's exactly what happens. They don't create new characters that show the type of empowerment that they want to portray, which I think in a way leads to a sense of lack of creativity among those attempting to do this. And I mean that in all sincerity. I mean, think about it, right? When Stan Lee started creating characters like the Fantastic Four, um, Black Panther, the Hulk, he based himself on general concepts and what was going on at the time, which was largely about radiation, the Cold War, the nuclear threat, and things we were learning. And that's a common norm. I mean, for example, if many of you have ever seen the movie War of the Worlds and read the book War of the Worlds, you'll realize that the reason it was written the way it was because of the time that it was set in. At that time, microbiology was just beginning to emerge as a mature science. And because of that maturity, or lack of maturity, in popular fiction, the idea of germs as an invisible component of our ecosystem was fascinating to people, and to many people, fresh information. So when they created War of the Worlds, when H.G. Wells thought of this, he figured that the aliens that would come to Earth with their advanced technology, traversing space and landing on a planet they had never been on, would carelessly not scan that planet for microbiological elements that could hurt them. I am even more surprised they didn't check the air. But apparently the air seemed to work in their favor, because it just seemed ridiculous that could happen. And then you take a movie like Independence Day. So they take the concept of viruses and now they put them in computers. What they didn't understand was that computer viruses are written in human language. And the idea that you could reverse engineer a language to create a antivirus capability for a system that's alien in every facet to us is actually ludicrous, especially in the span of a 2 hour movie. More so, I love the part where they are flying towards the mothership with a alien spacecraft that apparently landed in Roswell. So it had been missing about 60 years. And when they approach this mothership, what does it do? It opens the door and says, "Welcome home, buddy." This is kind of like the USS Nimitz, now in the middle of the Pacific, or the Atlantic, and having a World War I Sopwith Camel attempt to land on it. And they go, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." That's as ludicrous as that was. So anyway, getting back to our subject, and I just wanted to use that as a way to express how sometimes ideas um, are evolved because of their time, but then later they're replaced with new ideas, but not thought well through. And that's the case I see in comics and in popular culture. Most recently, we heard the Academy Awards is now going to require diversity, and that includes handicapped and other things to be part of the crew that makes a Best Picture. Folks, unfortunately, a Best Picture is the result of the Best Picture, not the people who made it. We're not giving brownie points to the people behind the scene. In the same way, we're not giving brownie points to people who paint or rip off characters that we have in our mythos for comic books and just use their new likeness to replace an existing character. For example, if you take a character like, let's take any one of them. Here's a good one, Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider is a character that actually got changed. Got changed by Stan Lee. The reason he got changed is because westerns fell out of favor. But what Stan Lee never did was he never went back and took the history of the Ghost Rider that was a western and destroyed it. He just built a modern Ghost Rider that had a motorcycle, used the same name because it wasn't a name that represented anything specific. It was just the name of an idea, and said, okay, this guy's now going to be the new Ghost Rider, and he's going to ride a motorcycle because that's the modern horse, right? And even in the Ghost Rider comics, you had the Western Ghost Rider show up. So there's an example. Another example is what's happening with Captain America. We are getting now I think what's going to be a black Captain America. There's nothing wrong with that because Steve Rogers actually retired, and for that matter, even died in the comics. So there was an opportunity for someone else to take the mantle of Captain America. But what doesn't work is when the actual character is replaced with a new character and their mythos and their proper name and their identity is stolen. And that's what's happening today. For example, if you wanted to create an empowered detective that has the keen or outstanding abilities of analytical thought, you could take the model of Sherlock Holmes and create a new Sherlock Holmes. You can make him gay, you can make it a woman, you can make it a gay woman, you can make it whatever you want. You can make it an armadillo. It doesn't matter. I mean, we've seen it with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My God, they took the Four Musketeers and literally created turtles out of them. But they didn't do it in France. They didn't do it replacing the original story of the Musketeers. They basically took the concept and then they went ahead and created a similar archetype, endowed them with Japanese, Asian capabilities and tools, but the idea is really of a team very similar to what the Three Musketeers were. And in some cases, the names are famous painters, but the relationship is there to classical characters. They're not necessarily Michelangelo, the actual painter. So, guys, there's a way of doing this and there's a way of not doing this. And I think that's what I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to explain that you have every right if you believe that we need characters that show different empowered females. Captain Marvel's a great one. A lot of people hated it. I thought it was a great movie. I actually have no problem with that movie. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Is she the best actress in the world? No, not necessarily, but she wasn't that bad. I've seen worse. But she did not replace the old Captain America. Now, what was bad in the film was with Annette Bening, who I love, shows up as the original Captain Marvel. That's ridiculous. There's no reason for that. That was done only to give a woman the identity, or to give an original character a female identity. And there's no need for that. There really isn't. And the same thing is happening with characters today, where they're taking them and they're adding attributes that just aren't in line with that character's lineage, with that character's history, the way they are. You cannot take a physical superhero that is based on their physical capabilities, that is also based on their beauty because they come from ancient times. Diana, Wonder Woman, is not a modern concept. Wonder Woman is. but she comes from um, a historical mythology out of Greek mythology, and she is Diana. Diana is one of the gods in Greek mythology. She's an Amazon, for God's sakes. If you look at what Amazons are, they're athletically powerful women. What's wrong with that? Now, well, I think you know what I'm talking about. Let's look at some of other examples of where diversity has worked. And then we'll talk a little bit about why it doesn't work today in some characters. Okay, so there's actually nothing wrong with diversity in comics. Actually, it is a good thing. And the reason it's a good thing is because it represents what the real world is like. Therefore, there's no reason not to have it, and we do have it. Here's one example of diversity: the introduction of a Native American into comic books. What other symbol of diversity, or what greater symbol than what we saw with Black Panther? Why it was well done is because it was intended to be the way it was done. It was intended the way the creator of the character built him. He was designed as an example of an advanced African civilization, and he was their king. There was no reason to change it. There was no reason to make him a white man. There was no reason to make him anything but what he was. And the actor that portrayed him did a phenomenal job. And the movie went to make record of a record number of money in the box office, and continues to be sought after as one of the best MCU films made. But it was because it held true to what it meant. We also have characters that don't necessarily represent the perfect epitome of the chiseled body that we resoundingly see with our heroes. But there's a reason for that. This example is Bouncing Boy of the Legion of Superheroes. His power is to expand his body, and therefore he is already a heavyset looking superhero, and he's never been chastised for that. Instead, it's not even questioned. The fact that he looks that way is not the reason he was created. He was created to have an effect, and that effect required his body to be molded in a specific way. Another example is Professor X. Now, Professor X has always been in a wheelchair, but does anyone really identify him with being an invalid? Or is his power of his mind and the strength of his intellect what really resonates when you see him in a caption of a comic book or in a movie where he's represented? Has he ever really looked at as someone who just is handicapped? Is that the reason he joined the film? Was that the reason he was created, to add the diversity? No. When Stan Lee created Professor X, he decided that he wanted to show that having a disability did not create the character of the person nor its capabilities, that there were other things that that person could do. We have excellent representations in our science community. We have excellent representations of this across all of our communities. And these people are not measured by the wheels on their chairs, but by the size of their mind and their abilities. It could be a painter, it could be a thinker, it could be a scientist. Regardless, it's still a human being, and it's not defined by their chair. Now, Batgirl, for example. Batgirl was actually put in a wheelchair by a bullet that the Joker shot at her. Um, she's an invalid now, and at the same time, she's very capable. She continues to be a superhero, and she does what Batman's always done: use the power of his mind, or her mind, to be able to combat crime. And she's been very successful. And like Wonder Woman, we've had many, many female characters in our comic history. One of the very first created by Stan Lee, if not the very first created by Stan Lee in the modern Marvel Comics universe, was Sue Richards. Sue Richards has never been a weakling. As a matter of fact, in more current issues of the Fantastic Four, she's becoming one of the most powerful members of the Force. And again, never has it been a situation where she has been looked at as just the woman in the story. She did play the mother figure for the Fantastic Four. She did have a baby, but that is because it is the nature of her character, not what defined her. Now, here is where I believe that comics are going the wrong direction. This is an image of the new Wonder Woman. This image is specifically been made so that people see her as someone that is of average capability. Unfortunately, Wonder Woman is not of average capability. First off, Wonder Woman is a god. Gods, in many ways, have the ability to create what image they prefer to be in. And more than likely, they want to strive for what is considered an image of a perfect body, an image of a perfect mind, an image of a perfect face. Unless you're speaking of an evil god that wants to strike fear in someone, similar to like Satan or some of those other kind of incarnations. The reality is that the incarnations of those gods that we strive to see as examples of what we could only pray we could become normally exceed the capability of humanity to achieve it. That is why Wonder Woman has always been a gorgeous woman. That is why Wonder Woman has always been physically fit. That is why Wonder Woman has always been able to accomplish amazing feats. That is why Wonder Woman is the epitome of what the gods of ancient were. We don't see the gods of ancient actually ever portrayed differently. For example, even Buddha. The reason Buddha was portrayed as a heavy-set man was never because Buddha himself was heavy-set. It was the image that was given of showing that Buddha had plenty, that Buddha was enjoying the benefit of the life he had led now that he had become a god and was able to enjoy himself. There was nothing negative about the look of Buddha. Instead, it was looked at as something that we would strive for if we wanted to be able to enjoy food, enjoyed luxury and leisure. But it was never meant to show that Buddha was a superhero that could lift a car and throw it across, that could fight alien races, or anything that goes into exactly what the superhero genre is about. The superhero genre is about creating characters that face adversity and are able to overcome it, either with their mind or some sort of power. Now, if this character would have been designed with some capability that may have been different, there would be no issue with it. But what they've done is they've taken a character whose actual attributes are based on physical capability and basically made her weak, and made her look like someone who is actually lying in leisure and not an action defined person. You know, many of us look like this. There's nothing wrong with it. No one should feel ashamed about the way they look. They can look any way they can, and they look probably the best that they can. And we should accept everyone for how they look. But we don't have to create those images of what we strive to be when we're better in the images of what we actually are when we're not. For example, you don't look at the image of a good person beating someone. And the reason, yes, there are people that beat people by mistake, and at heart they may be good people and they repent. But the fact is, you don't have that image. And you don't have that image of Jesus taking a stick to someone, because that image of Jesus is not what he's trying to represent. He's trying to represent peace. He's trying to represent the power of forgiveness. So that's the image that you show. This is the problem with images like this. This is the problem with this culture that we call woke. I firstly don't even half the time understand what woke means. Apparently I'm not. I'm asleep. And I will say that I do enjoy my sleep. Because when I look at what woke is doing to our society, it is destroying and changing the face of the things that we enjoy and that we like, and replacing them with the things that other people feel are going to make you feel good about yourself. Listen, folks, it's been long enough that we've been looking at giving everyone a star for trying. Okay? You can try as hard as you want, but that doesn't make you win. What you have to do is you have to look at how to achieve success, how to achieve it in your personal life, how to achieve it in your professional life, and if it's important to you, how to achieve it physically. But don't give yourself an award just for trying. Realizing that failure is just another way of learning how to achieve is a good thing. Thinking that failure is achievement is a bad thing. There's no problem in failing at something. As a matter of fact, you can't ever get to winning without having some loss. But you have to learn from them. You don't take them up as your mantle of honor. You can express what you've done, how you've done it, and why it didn't work. And that makes you a smarter person for realizing that there are ways of doing things that maybe you did a little differently. And if you would have changed them to do them even more different, they would have actually succeeded. So it's about learning from things. It's not about failure. It's not about just because I look this way, I need to turn everything I look at into a representation of me. You want to know where you're represented in your mind and not your body. If you let the fact that your body represents you, then you're trapped. Again, I just don't see why we have to take a character such as Wonder Woman and redefine her in a way that goes completely against the character's nature. And the character itself is representing a literal living God. Um, even when we saw Fat Thor, right? We saw that. We saw that in Avengers. It was great. Everyone loved it. No one complained. No one said, "Oh my God, Thor's fat. Oh my God, what'd they do?" Yeah, because it played well into the storyline. He let himself go. He let himself go for a period. This is not letting herself go. This is a whole new character. Look at the anatomy of this woman. This is not Wonder Woman. This is somebody else. Now, if you want to call it a different Amazon, maybe one that didn't go to the gym and likes to eat, fine. But don't call it Wonder Woman. And also, don't expect her to be able to walk around and run around in the same fashion that Wonder Woman does. Because if she did, she wouldn't look the way she looks. That's the bottom line, guys. The reason track runners look like track runners is because they run. Nothing else to it, right? Okay, so listen, I'm going to wrap it up now. I really hope that I can hear from you guys. You'll see my email. Please subscribe. Please hit a like. I really like doing these videos, but I even like it more when I hear from you. You have a different of opinion, please let me know. I'm on Instagram. You can get a hold of me there at any time. So if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me in my email, or you can reach out to me in my Instagram. And thank you very much. And I will leave you with a little tease. The next show I'm doing is going to be about a wonderful character that I believe doesn't get a lot of press, and a great artist, and that is Flash Gordon and Alex Raymond. One of the best, possibly one of the best artists of the 20th century. I mean, of course, we've got amazing guys today, and not to take anything away from them, but guys, remember, like the original artists of old, the original classic artists that were drawing with grape juice. These guys don't have the tools that the guys today have. These guys didn't use shadow boxes. These guys weren't able to put something on a computer and trace over it. There's a lot of stuff that happened, and basically the artists today are standing in the shoulders of these giants. If you don't know another giant, Frank Frazetta, Hal Foster, I mean, the list goes on. They're incredible. Kirby, everyone knows. But these guys, they've kind of been forgotten. So the next video is going to be about these forgotten artists and some of the incredible work they did. I hope to see you then.